We've played as those stupid birds over 5 times now, and well, I think I'm about ready to hop in some mud, roll around a little bit and get oinkin', cause hoo-wee, we do things a little differently around here. If the birds launch some slingshots, then what the heck are those darn Bad Piggies up to? I'd say it's high time for our first spin-off in the Angry Birds series. This right here is some bad little piggies. Hello everybody, and thank you for enduring my cringy country accent once again. I had to bring it back for the pig's first solo adventure. As one of the few classic Angry Birds games still available on app stores, Bad Piggies is a big game for us to cover. So make sure to watch all the previous videos in this series, including the one I just posted for Angry Birds Trilogy. And let's get started. Thanks to a presentation Rovio gave at a Unity panel all about Bad Piggies, we have a pretty solid idea of how they came up with this game. Rovio made games all about entertainment, with a huge focus on character. Most Angry Birds fans, myself included, are incredibly attached to the members of the flock. That's why there's so much love and fan art for these games. For Rovio, that means they sell a ton of merch. And while birds were pretty popular, they noticed a lot of fans loved the pigs just as much, maybe even more than the birds in some cases. If people love the pigs that much, they might even love a brand new game focused entirely around them. But what kind of game would that even be? The initial concept they came up with looked exactly like the game we got. Pigs building contraptions to get from point A to point B. I wish they would have went a little more in depth with what other ideas they had for a game based on the pigs, because we know there was more than one. This concept down to the art style is exactly what we got as the final product. The key differences are how the pig would sit in a basket and was trying to get to the eggs, both of which were changed later on. One of the reasons the game didn't change much is they decided to create it fully within 5 months, which means tight deadlines and no room to backtrack on stuff like level design after it's been finished. That sounds insane and really impressive that they managed to make such a cool game that quickly. If you're interested in game design, I'd recommend you watch this whole video, it's really interesting. But let's move on. The first teaser trailer released at the end of August, just showing a load of pigs flooding the screen. The gameplay trailer released a little over a week before the game launched, and on September 27th we received the full, beautifully animated trailer, featuring a pig testing out different contraptions to reach the eggs. And on that same day, Bad Piggies released. Since Angry Birds was already a huge brand name, of course this game did well. It reached the top of the App Store list in 3 hours, and 1 month later it was the fastest selling iOS game ever. Not only was it popular though, it was critically acclaimed. People loved the classic slingshot action, but this game proved to Rovio that they could try other gameplay formulas. But just what is the gameplay of Bad Piggies? I'm sure you all know already, but let me explain it the way Rovio did in that presentation I referred to earlier. Bad Piggies gameplay was built with this idea in mind. The more freedom you give the player, the less approachable the game is. There needs to be constrictions, and the game can become more open over time, but especially early on, you have very few items to work with and not a ton of wrong choices you can make. I think they nailed that fairly well, especially in the first few chapters of the game. This is referred to as the linear phase. Then there's the sandbox phase, unlocked after completing the levels in the linear phase. The better you do there, the more objects you have at your disposal in the sandbox. This is where you experiment and play around after learning from the main levels of the game. This is a very broad look at the chapters in this game though, so let's get a bit more in depth, starting with the first level pack, Groundhog Day. In the intro comic, we meet our main 3 characters. King Pig uses a telescope to see the eggs, giving directions to the mechanic pig, while Ross turns on a fan, destroying their map. Now we play as Ross, creating vehicles to collect each piece of the map. A lot of people love Ross, and I think he's cool. I'm just not really sure what makes him better than a regular old minion pig, other than the fact that he's the main character and he has freckles. Mechanic Pig is probably the one building these things. He's also a power-up that builds the ideal vehicle for you when needed. And he loves testing gravity with his blue hat. King Pig goes without saying. He's a much fatter pig that needs smaller pigs to do his bidding. In each level you gotta get Ross to the goal. Sometimes that means making a cool vehicle, other times that means dropping him down a hole and just letting him do it on his own. There are 2 additional challenges in each level to get your 3 stars though. A lot of levels have a hidden box to find, and all you have to do is run into it to collect it. Sometimes you have to complete a level without using one of the given items. The most challenging ones I always struggle with are beating the level without breaking your contraption or finishing it under the time limit. I think these challenges are what make Bad Piggies so fun for me though. Getting 3 stars requires experimentation and outside-the-box thinking that you don't get from beating it the boring way. Anyways, the first level has you make a pretty generic car, and I was kinda surprised when that didn't end up working well. So already we go back to the drawing board, trying something new, and finishing every objective. This first chapter introduces you to so many of the items you'll use throughout the whole game. Let's not describe everyone at length, I'll just touch on some of the categories. Boxes are what hold you and whatever items you're carrying. They're the structure of your vehicle. Most levels give you wheels too. I shouldn't have to describe to you what wheels are for. There's a myriad of pushing items like pillars or fans, and you get to control when to activate them. There's items like rockets and soda bottles that have more power but can only be used once. TNT is like a kamikaze, last-ditch effort move. Umbrellas let you follow a style, motors help your powered items work better, and springs are maybe one of the most useless items in this game, honestly. There's really no need to go more in depth with this initial set of items than that, but these are the foundation of the game and will continue to be used throughout the rest of the game. Lastly, for getting enough stars in each row of levels, you get a bonus level. Mechanic Pig loves dropping his hat down holes, and it's Ross's job to go and retrieve it for him. These levels are typically bigger and more difficult than the main ones, but you'll want to complete them all to get as many stars as you can, so you can get as many items as you can in the sandbox mode. Each level has a corresponding sandbox, where the player is given free reign to make whatever contraptions they want and collect all 20 stars on the map. Personally, I've never been that huge on the sandbox. I prefer the puzzle nature of the main levels, and also there's not really anything we need to talk about in the sandboxes, so I apologize if you love them, but they probably won't come out too much. Towards the end of the episode, we get our first King Pig escort mission. He's so freaking fat, you gotta give him 3 whole boxes to carry him with you. Honestly, I love every level with King Pig, it's a fun addition. I think Groundhog Day does a great job of introducing you to the core game mechanics in a quick, intuitive, and entertaining way. So far we aren't facing any major challenges, but I don't think that makes these levels any less fun. After completing the first episode, the pigs stitch their map back together and are on their way. When the game initially released, the second pack included was When Pigs Fly, but it's since changed to Rise and Swine. I want to go in order of the update, so we'll skip Rise and Swine for now and come back to it. Now that the map is fixed, but the eggs have moved, they decide to use a box instead. It's a much more reliable material. Unless you use TNT, King Pig would not be happy if that happened. When Pigs Fly is all about the pigs taking flight, who would have guessed? We start off pretty simple with balloons to lift the pig, but quickly evolve to full-on plane parts. I've never completely comprehended how this stuff works, like you put these little wings on top and suddenly you can glide around. Tail wings help with your vehicle's balance, I think? It genuinely is magical to fly around in this game for the first time, it's really fun. You can use helicopter parts as well, offering for more precise movement. I like the ending of this one quite a bit. It turns out the Blues painted a picture of the eggs on their telescope. That's like the opposite of gym shit, honestly. By far, the coolest concept for a chapter yet is Flight in the Night. While the birds are asleep, Ross actually manages to nab an egg. Now in order to beat a level, Ross and the egg have to make it. Ross can't roll to the end on his own, the egg has to cross it too. And the levels here are pretty fun, although sadly there aren't any new mechanics introduced other than the egg. But there's so much you can do with the items already here, I don't think anyone even notice or care. These levels where you use a rope to create a makeshift kite is one of the most genius, exciting discoveries of this game I've had. Halfway through the episode, the birds wake up and they're angry. It's almost like a role reversal from the Red's Mighty Feather levels in Angry Birds Classic. Now you need to drive away as Red and the other birds try to hit your vehicle. It's such a smart way to incorporate the birds into the game, I love it. Ross actually makes it alive with that egg, but apparently the Blues are the biggest antagonists this game will ever see. When the Flight in the Night levels were added, there was a brand new mode that came with it, Roadhogs. It's kind of like hill climb racing, but you build the vehicle. These levels are pretty long, and when you're racing at full speeds, you're bound to crash much easier. I do sort of like these, but I'm kinda bad at them honestly, so I don't think I'll beat them all. The biggest update for Bad Piggies was the Rise and Swine update. With a new dessert mode, you could collect various treats just by playing levels, then feed them to King Pig with the hope that he'll burp out a power-up. He mostly burps out nothing though, but it's fun to make him grow as big as he possibly can. Rise and Swine was placed as the second level pack, which is an interesting idea. Maybe they felt these levels were easier than the When Pigs Fly episode, but there's a bunch of new mechanics here that now wouldn't appear again for 2 chapters if you played it in the suggested order. The first of which, being one of my favorites in this game, the suction cup wheels. Driving around on walls and upside down on the ceiling is always a blast. It's really fun how they introduced the punching gloves to combine with it, giving you a little boost. But there's a lot of fun uses for the punching gloves here too. And then we get the grappling hook, bringing all of Ross's Spider-Ham dreams into reality. These 3 items offer so many new ways to play, making Rise and Swine a really fun set of levels overall. Oh, right, almost forgot the story for this one. The pigs are starving and smell cake, bumping into Chef Pig and ruining the king's treats. So at the end of the chapter, they bring him a huge cake and save the day. This was Chef Pig's in-game debut as well, I'm pretty sure. Around Halloween time in 2013, a new episode was added, titled Tusk Till Dawn. Ross is out trick-or-treating when he eats some bad candy and falls asleep. So this whole game was just a dream then. What a cop-out ending. This level really does take place within Ross's dreams. It's pretty obvious when your goal of each stage is a dream catcher. Rather than carrying the egg with you, there's a pumpkin full of candy in its place. I love this guy, he's my little buddy. Ross also gets a different mask every time you use him. They're all very fun. Other than that, these are just more of the same, but this is one of the first really challenging episodes, I feel. I've looked up how to get a few stars here and there, but actually having difficulty beating these levels is becoming much more of a problem. The second half of the episode shows Ross waking up, where some zombie pigs and freaking Major Lazer, who wrote the sick music I'm probably playing right now, are eating his candy. He throws his pumpkin at them only to have it bounce back and knock him out once again. These levels fittingly don't feature the pumpkin, giving you a lot more freedom in your vehicles. There is one level I want to talk about, level 521. You're supposed to be able to complete it without a grappling hook by bouncing off of TNT, but for some reason they changed the physics at some point and broke this level. But if you have the Frankenstein costume for Ross, for whatever reason, it fixes it. What the actual hell, dude? Why would a skin have different physics? I genuinely got so upset when I found this out. Thank God I managed to unlock that skin by sheer luck. Once you beat the chapter, we see Ross wake up from his dream, or more accurately, his nightmare. We've already made it to the final episode, the road to El Porkado. King Pig has misplaced his golden idol, so Ross is on a mission, Indiana Jones style. They should have got Hambo for this one, honestly, or dressed Ross up as that one hot girl from El Dorado. That would have been perfect. I've never played these levels before, so I'm curious what was introduced. The first big item is the gearbox, allowing you to change the direction your vehicle drives. This was technically in one of the sandbox levels first, but it debuts in the story mode here. The same can be said for the detacher, appearing first in a bonus level. You can essentially make 2 separate objects, breaking off parts of the machine when they aren't needed anymore. This part feels like it could really change the game. After a few levels, the screen goes dark, and now you're unable to preview what the level ahead looks like and can only see a little better with this new spotlight item. This makes collecting the star crates much harder, since you have to illuminate them with your spotlight. I think it was a good idea and a natural evolution for the game. I just personally didn't find these levels to be as fun as the previous episodes. Finding your way in the dark is a gimmick bound to get old quickly, but as always, these are still amazing level designs and concepts. Don't worry, there's normal levels too, with tons of branching paths and these ice sections you can slip and slide all around on. Then Ross finds the golden pig statue, your newest in-game item. It's as big as King Pig, but isn't needed to be levels. Instead, you typically push it around with you, making it hit switches and activate these new doors. These are famously finicky and messed up, and every level with these doors was so much less fun than the rest. I had to look up solutions to a lot of these levels, and while some of them were a little fun, I ended up disliking most of them. Still, El Porkado had a really fun environment and felt so much more advanced than the previous episodes. As we beat this long episode, King Pig stopped scarfing down on cakes to admire his brand new golden pig statue. And just like that, we've beaten the game. I was determined to earn 3 stars on every level, and so I did. Like I said, I looked up a lot of solutions, but I still tried my best to figure out each level when I could. More than any other Angry Birds game, it doesn't feel right to beat this game without beating the challenges. It'd be far too easy and go way too quickly otherwise. We briefly looked at the sandbox mode, but let's get a bit more specific. There were 2 sandbox levels corresponding to every chapter, other than the Halloween one, where instead you had to find enough hidden skulls throughout the levels to unlock it. There's one for finding hidden statues too. By getting more stars or collecting all the skulls, you can get more vehicle parts to experiment with in the sandbox levels. There's 20 star crates in each one to collect, requiring you to try multiple different types of vehicles. There's no end goal though, so once you hit a crate, it's yours. The sandboxes just really aren't my thing. I'm cool with 100% in the main levels, but I really don't want to play these. I'm sure there are people who feel the exact opposite about them for sure. I won't be paying for the biggest sandbox since it costs real money, and while I could get the Little Pig Adventure Pack, I generally just don't want to. After all these levels, there were a couple new updates before the game ended. Cosmetics were introduced with some epic loot boxes to dress up your pig in every part in the game. The good news is you don't have to bother with the loot boxes if you don't care, except if you want that Frankenstein skin to beat that one level, but that's it. I do like some of these cosmetics, I just find everything about how you need to unlock them bad and dumb. The final content update for Bad Piggies introduced the cake race. It's probably my least favorite part of Bad Piggies as it's the closest to feeling like some modern day Rovio schlock, but it's really not too bad. It's a quote unquote online multiplayer mode, fighting against opponents to collect more cakes in order to win free loot boxes that take hours to open. Wonderful. You aren't actually online fighting anyone though, you're basically just trying to beat a random score. You're given a few parts to work with and there's a time limit too, with this alarm clock part that can end the round when you're done. I never lost, maybe it gets harder or I'm not really sure, but I have no interest in playing it ever again, so no worries. This mode has seasons and has apparently been going on for 409 of them. Please, please I beg of you, no one out there tell me you participated in all of them, please. Alright, we've gone through the entire history of Bad Piggies content updates, now let's figure out where we're going to rank it. As an Angry Birds game, well, it's really not an Angry Birds game. But while I will always love the classic slingshot action of the games we've ranked so far, this game is fun in its own way. It's one of the most unique puzzle games I've ever played, as it really doesn't feel like a puzzle game. It's almost like Rovio created a brand new genre here, or copied Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts, except they made it good. Learning how to use each item to traverse different terrains is always a fun and interesting challenge. The only times I wasn't having fun was when the physics weren't working correctly, which was fairly rare. The final episode has more duds than the rest of the game, but still has some really awesome level designs. It's a lot shorter than I remembered it being, but getting to play through the whole game in just a couple days was a blast, and it never overstayed its welcome. The best thing about Bad Piggies is how fun and seamless it is to play. There's no waiting around, there's no boring tutorials or downtime when you want to play. The way you can retry stages goes so fast it makes it not even feel like a chore to experiment and try new things on a whim. You are always building, driving, and playing new levels the entire way through. Other than the cosmetics, there's zero stupid mobile game tropes getting in the way, like an energy system or event tab. Good thing they added that to the sequel. If you want to hear about that crappy game they discontinued, check out my old video on it, it's a banger. But Bad Piggies doesn't need a sequel. We don't need to ruin anything else, Rovio. It is truly a wonder that one of the greatest Angry Birds games ever made is still up on the App Store, and I had so little negative things to say about it, there should be no surprise it's going in S tier. Look, I know we have a lot of S tiers, but Angry Birds started off strong, people. The further we go, the lower these games are gonna get. Let me know if you think Bad Piggies deserves a top tier, and if not, why? What are your favorite episodes and levels? If you'd like to see the series continue, please consider supporting me on Patreon or like my wonderful channel members. I'm unsure of the future of my channel in 2025, so if you've ever enjoyed my channel, now is definitely the time to do so. Thank you to Patrick Byerjean, Bright Streak, Dojo Master, Keep, Gall Guy, Jeff the Legend, Cheaper Ying, Test Monkey, Marie, Callum Ford, Perskill Banner, Checky, Mr. Odell, Timor Kurnov, Aaron the Ghoul, Freakish Smile, Border to Bordeaux, Pika Girl for You, Miku, Geminot, Lewis, MD Switchy, Omegon, Christa Creations, Jonathan Biscoff, Lavatane, Alex Yusuf, OK Isabella, Skibbity, and McCrazy. I know I've been edging you all for a while now, but next time will be the Star Wars video, finally. I plan to cover both games in a bit longer of a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Goodbye.